Hi all, let's take a look at practice ACT test number 4. Problem number 1. On level ground, telephone pole 24 foot tall makes a 6-foot shadow. And nearby there's a pole with an even longer shadow. And it's 18 feet. How long is that pole? Well, we can set up a proportion here. Pole is to shadow. And if I multiply both sides by 18, I see that question mark should be 24. And that corresponds with choice E. 70, 3 times 24, 72. Problem number 2. Web Films monthly charge of $14. New one-time member fee of $1,600 payment. So $100 should equal that $14 per month plus your initial $16 payment. So we've got 84 equals 14m, and so m equals 6, which is why G is our answer for 2. 3. Y equals -6, y squared minus 4 over y minus 2. Look, there's a difference of squares on top. We can cancel the y minus 2's, and so we're left with y plus 2, or -6 plus 2 gives me -4, which is why B is the answer for number 3. Number 4. School offered a field trip, 15 fewer students going, they would charge $11.50. More than 15, it would be $10.25. 18 students opted to go on the tour. So 18 kids paid. Ooh, and it says here that they paid $11.50. But they only needed to pay $10.25. So it looks like the difference is 18 times 125, or 5/4 times 18, which is 45 halves, which is 22.50, will get applied to their dinner. And that's choice J. J for number 4. 5. 16-piece orchestra wants one of its members to speak, not the 4 soloists. So 16 minus the 4 soloists means there's 12 people to choose from. They want one speaker, so Itzhak has a 1 in 12 chance of being chosen, and that's choice C. Problem 6. Perimeter of a rectangle where the width is 8 and the length is 17. And so we add up all these, we get 2 17s plus 2 8s, and that's 34 plus 16, or 50. The perimeter is 50, and that corresponds with choice H. Problem 7. Renaissance Fair. Okay, so $9 when purchased online, $12 when purchased in person. They sold 240 online, so that would be $21.60 total. We want to make $4,000. They still need to make $2,840, I believe. Let's check that. 9 times 240. 9 times 240 is 2160, yes, and 4,000 minus 2160 is 18. There we go, 1840. And if I divide the 1840 by $12 a pass, I get 153.33. So they're going to have to sell 154 passes to meet their goal, which is why choice B and not choice A is the answer to this problem. 8. 8 says, what's the value of Q? So we have 9 over Q equals 6 over 10. We cross multiply, we get 90 equals 6Q. And if we divide by 6, we get Q equals 15, which is choice J. How about 9? 9 says negative 9, y minus 13 equals 16. So I distribute, I get negative 9y plus 117 equals 16. I subtract 117 from both sides. I get negative 9y equals negative 101. I divide by negative 9. A negative divided by negative is positive, so we get positive 101 over 9, and that's choice E for number 9. Choice E for number 9. 10. We've got this picture with a lot of isosceles triangles in it. We remember in an isosceles triangle that the angles opposite the congruent sides are congruent. We're given this angle over here, 120, and we're asked to find this angle over here. Well, we can see that these two angles form a straight line, so they're a linear pair, so they have to add up to 180. We've used 120 here, so this must be 60. Because these sides are the same, these angles are the same, so this must also be 60. Here's another linear pair. We've used up 60, so this must be 120. And now I've got 120 plus 2 of those unknown angles adds up to 180. Or 2 of those unknown angles adds up to 60, so the unknown angle must be 30. And that's choice F. Choice F for number 10. How about 11? 11 says f of negative 3. Well, we know we're supposed to plug a negative 3 in for all the x's. Negative 3 squared minus 9 times negative 3 plus 4. So this will be 7 times 9 plus 27 plus 4, or 63 plus 31, which is 94, or choice E. 12. The least common multiple of 25, 16, and 40. Well, this has two 5s in it. This has a whole bunch of 2's in it. And 40 has some 2's and a 5. Well, I'm going to need 2 5's, and I'm going to need 4 2's. This one has some 2's, so I'm all set there, and it has 5. There's nothing new that 40 introduces that these others aren't covering, but my least common multiple will be 25 times 16, or 400, which is why choice J is my answer for 12. 13. I meant to multiply a number by 12, but I divided a number by 12. So if I take a number and multiply it, by 3, I would get 81. But I divided the number by 3 instead. So what do I have to do to the number that I have to get the number I want? I'm going to need to multiply by 9. I have to undo this dividing by 3, and then I have to do the original multiplying by 3. So I have to multiply by 9, which is choice B. B for number 13. 14. Well, we're told in this problem the 8-sided figure below is divided into 12 congruent isosceles right triangles. Remember, with an isosceles right triangle, the legs are the same. So I'm going to call these X. We also have a total area of 96 divided by 12 of these triangles, which means that each triangle has an area of 8. So 1/2 x times x should equal 8. Or, if I multiply both sides by 2, x squared equals 16, and so x equals 4. That means a side length is 4. Well, if I count these side lengths, I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 side lengths. 14 side lengths of length 4 gives me 56. And 56 is K. K is my answer for this one. Okay, and this was 14. 15. We've got a right triangle, X, Y, and Z is less than 52. Well, if Z were 52, then this would be 38. But if this is less than 52, like 51, then this becomes 39. And if this is 50, then this becomes 40. So I can see that these numbers up here are getting bigger. So I want to say that x has to be greater than 38. And that's choice A. Choice A for number 15. 16. We've got a little emoticon here. 8 smiley face 2 to the third minus 4 smiley face 1 squared, and that should be 48. And they wonder if the emoticon represents subtraction, multiplication, or division. Well, let's try subtraction. 8 minus 2 to the third minus 4 minus 1 squared. Does that equal 48? Well, this is going to be 6 to the third minus 3 squared. Or 216 minus 9, that doesn't equal 48. How about if the emoticon equals multiplication? Well, here I'm going to get 16, but here I'm going to have 16 to the third. 16 to the third minus 16, no way is that going to equal 48. That does not equal 48. So division must be my answer here. And that's G. G for division only. Okay, 17. 17 says, how much more does it cost a 6-pound package to ship a 6-pound package than it does a 3-pound package? Well, a 6-pound package costs 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to send, and a 3-pound package costs $1, $2, $3 to send. So $5 minus $3, the difference is $2, and that's why D is my answer for 17. 18. It says an integer is subtracted from 6. Be careful here with subtraction. An integer is subtracted from 6. Then that difference is multiplied by 3. This product is 15 more than half of the original integer. They just wanted me to translate here. They don't want me to solve this. They just want me to translate. And that's why F is the answer for 18. 19 is another problem where they just want me to set up. They want to know when X's production will equal Y's production. Well, X's production is the 18,000 they've already made plus the 120 per day that they can make. And Y's production, they've produced fewer so far, 14,500, but they can make 155 a day. And we want to know when X's production equals Y's production. And that looks like choice A for 19. 20. 20 is, well, well, I want to say a trig question, but really it's a Pythagorean triple question. If you know your triples, you know that the ramp is 25. If not, then you're going to have to do 7 squared plus 24 squared equals ramp squared. 49 plus 576 equals ramp squared. 625 is ramp squared, and when we take the square root of both sides, we get that the ramp is equal to 25. But it's much faster if you're comfortable with your triples. All right, how about 21? We've got 9y plus 3 minus 2, 4y minus 4. Don't forget to distribute the negative 2. We've got 9y plus 27 minus 8y. Minus a minus is plus 8. So when I combine like terms, I have y plus 35, which is choice E for 21. 22. 22 says a plus 3b equals 27. A minus 3b equals 9. They'd like to know what b equals. Well, if I subtract this equation from that equation, I can eliminate the a's, a minus a. Then I get 3b minus a minus 3b, which would be 6b, and 27 minus 9 is 18. If I divide both sides by 6, I get b equals 3. And that corresponds to choice F. F for number 22. How about 23? '23 says if 2x plus 4 squared is written as ax squared plus bx plus c, well, I guess I need to FOIL this out. So I'm going to have 2x plus 4 times 2x plus 4, which is going to be 4x squared plus 8x plus 8x plus 16. These add up to make 4x squared plus 16x plus 16. Here's my a, my b, my c. And they say, what's a plus b minus c? Well, that's 4 plus 16 minus 16. Well, these cancel, leaving me 4, and that's b. B for number 23. 24. Well, with 24, I think I want to split this picture up into something that's 9 by 11, so that's 99. And if I've used up 9 here and the whole side was 30, this must be 21. 21 times 6 is 126, so 99 plus 126 is 225, or H for number 24. 25. So we're told that one of these functions is linear. And if we know the function is linear, a plus bx, that's a linear function, y equals mx plus b. If we know the function is linear, then the function must go up by the same amount each time. Do we go down by the same amount each time here? No. Do we go up by the same amount each time here? Yes. So we need to be looking at H's data and not G's data. G, no, sorry, you're not linear. And we want to figure out the value at 0. Well, if we're going up by the same amount each time, here we went up by 3 to go from -2 to -1, and so if I go up by another 3, I'll get to the value at 0. So 6 plus 3 is 9, which is why E is my answer for number 25. 25, the answer is E. 26. What's the slope of the line? 10y minus 16x equals 13. Well, to find slope, I need to be in y equals mx plus b form. I need y by itself. So I'm going to add 16x to both sides. And I'm going to divide everywhere by 10. So y equals 16/10 x plus 13/10. This reduces to 8/5. My slope is 8/5, which is choice H. H for number 26. 27. The sum of the two solutions. We've got x squared plus 5x minus 24 equals 0. We need to factor this. We've got x and 8 and 3 with plus and minus. So when I set these factors equal to 0, I get -8, I get +3, and it says, what's the sum of these solutions? -8 plus 3 would be -5, and that's choice C. C for number 27. Okay, C for number 27. Let's take a look at 28. Similar triangles. So we're told that the ratio of the perimeters is 5:6, which must mean the ratio of the sides is 5:6 as well. The sides of the larger triangle, that's the one on the bottom here, are 11 plus 8 plus 5. And we want to know the perimeter of the smaller triangle. So this is 19 and 5 is 24. And if I multiply both sides by 24, I could even do some canceling here. 5 times 4 is 20. The perimeter of the smaller triangle would be 20. And so my answer is G for number 28. 29. It asks me what the median of the temperatures is, which means I need to put them in order from smallest to largest. I've got a -9, a -8, a -7, another -7. Then I have a 0, a 1, a 2, a 3, and a 5. So what's the number in the middle? Well, I count off 1 on each end. And it looks like 0 is the one in the middle. And that's choice B for number 29. 30. When asked the price in dollars of a fancy calculator, Albert responded in a stupid-ass way, excuse my language. Who would Albert, don't talk like this. If you take the square root of the price, then add 3/8 the price, the result is 66. Okay, so I need a number that's square rootable, and that means that J and K are not gonna work. I also need a number that's divisible by 8, and 8 at 121 and 169 are not divisible by 8. Only G, 144, is. So let's test it out. Square root of 144 plus 3/8 times 144 should equal 66. Well, the square root of 144 is 12, and here 8 goes into 8 once, and 8 goes into 144 18 times. Yep. 3 times 18 is 54. 54 plus 12 is 66. So we're good to go with number 30. Number 30, G. 31. 31 says kinetic energy is equal to 1/2 mv squared. We know that the velocity is 9, the kinetic energy would be 1/2. Okay? 120 equals 1/2 m9 squared. So 120 equals 1/2 m times 81. And we want to solve for m. So I'm going to multiply both sides by 2. 240 equals 81m, and divide by 81. So if this number were 80, I would have exactly 3. But because this is bigger than 80, then the result of the division will be little less than 3. So our answer is going to be C, a number between 2 and 3 for 31. Okay, 32. 32, what is the fourth term in the geometric sequence below? Okay, so if we know what a geometric sequence is, we can do this problem that way. But in pre-cal, we're not going to cover that until after you finish the ACT in our class. So let's take a look and see what's happening here. I notice as I go from 2xz to the next term, 2x squared yz, nothing happened to the z, nothing happened to the 2. I have another x being multiplied here and a y. So another x and a y. Then as I go from the second term to the third term, I still have 2, x to the third, y squared, z. Well, look, the 2's are still there, they haven't changed. The z's are still there, they haven't changed. But the power of x did go up by 1, and the power of y also went up by 1. So I think the next term is going to be same 2, same z, but x is going to go up by 1, and y is going to go up by 1. And this corresponds to choice G, G for 32. Okay, 33. 33 is going to use this histogram. What the fraction that critics gave a 1-star review? Well, 1-star review here, there were 4 critics who gave 1 star. But how many total critics were there? Well, there were 3 who gave 0, and 4 who gave 1, and 6 who gave 2, and 8 who gave 3, and 6 who gave 4, and 3 who gave 5. So let's add up all those numbers. We had 3 plus 4 plus 6 plus 8 plus 6 plus 3. That's 12, and 8 is 20. 3 and 3 is 6, plus 4 is 10. There's a total of 30. So how many critics gave this 1-star review? 4 out of the 30 did, which is 2 out of 15, or choice E. 34. Group took survey data pie chart. Okay, so 1-star reviews was 2 out of 15. But we know in a circle there are 360 degrees. So we want 2/15 of 360 degrees. So 15 goes into 360 24 times. 24 times 2 is 48 degrees, would be the measure of the central angle in this pie wedge, representing 1-star reviews. 35. 35 says the nearest hundredth, what's the average star review for the 30 reviews? Well, there were 3 at 0, and there were 4 at 1, and there were 6 at 2, there were 8 at 3, there were 6 at 4, and there were 3 at 5. So the total number of stars awarded was 4 plus 12 plus 24 plus 24 plus 15. So we get 48, and 12 is 60, 70, 75, 79. Why do I feel like I missed something? Oh, excuse me. Oh, I didn't. 79 divided by 30. And when I do that on my calculator, I get approximately 2.63, which is D. Approximately 2.63 stars were awarded for this event. Okay, 30, on average, 36. 36 for all x's greater than 8. Well, if I factor the top, x plus 7 x plus 4 and x plus 3 times the x minus 2 that's there. And if I factor the bottom, x plus 4, x minus 2, x plus 3. Oh, well, these all cancel. And so I'm left with 1, which is why K is the answer to 36. 37. How timely for us. 35 degrees, 10, and we're looking for the hypotenuse. It looks like I would use the sine of 35 equals 10 over h, and they want to know what hypotenuse is. So we're going to multiply both sides by hypotenuse and divide both sides by sine of 35. So I get h is 10 over sine 35, and 10 over sine 35 is choice D. Okay, 38. 38 says, what are the coordinates at the center? You know the endpoints are located at 4, 3, and -9, -2. We know that halfway across this segment would be the center, and so we know we need to use the midpoint formula. We actually did a problem remarkably similar to this back in August on the second day of school when we covered circles. So we're going to do the midpoint formula, which has me adding the x's and dividing by 2, and adding the y's and dividing by 2. So I get -5/2, 1/2 as the midpoint. The y coordinate of the midpoint is 1/2, and so h is my answer for number 38. 39. Sonar located, each unit is 5 nautical miles. What's the distance? Well, it sounds like we need to use the distance formula between -7, 4 and -2, 6. We remember the distance formula is the square root of x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared. This comes from the Pythagorean theorem, a squared plus b squared equals c squared, but we've taken the square root of both sides. So I'm going to plug in my x's and y's. D equals the square root of -7 minus -2 squared plus 4 minus 6 squared. So that's -5 squared plus -2 squared, which is square root of 29. Well, I know that this number is between 5 and 6, right? Because the square root of 25 is 5 and the square root of 36 is 6. So I'm taking this number and multiplying this number that's a little more than 5 by a distance of 5 nautical miles each. So 5 root 29, and you can do this on your calculator, but I'm too lazy to pick up mine. And so I'm looking for a number between 5 times 6 and 5 times 5, and that turns out to be 27, or choice C. C for number 39. Okay, let's take a look at 40. So irrational numbers are numbers that go on forever without repeating, like pi or square root of 2. So, all of these are true except which? Well, you know, this might be one of those problems that you think about skipping if you're not comfortable going through these choices. I will say that the product of two irrational numbers is irrational. Well, if I have square root of 3 times square root of 3, I don't get an irrational number. And square root of 2 times square root of 2, I don't get an irrational number. K is the exception. All the others do work, but I don't really want to take the time to go through all the other choices I might skip this one and come back to it if I had time. 41. 41 says n, value of n is an integer less than 5. So we've got n to the n equals 1, n equals 2, n equals 3, n equals 4, and n equals 5. Well, we know this is I. We know this is negative 1. We know this is negative I. We know this is positive 1. And we know this is I again. Which of the following is a possible value? Well, I don't see any of the values except this one on their list, so B is my answer to 41. 42 uses a table and says, which of the following gives the greatest value of f of x? Well, this is a parabola shifted left 4 and down 1. So negative 4, negative 1 is my vertex. And we can see over here the point 1, 24, and here we have negative 7, 8. Well, if I went one more to negative 8, I'd have a value of 15, either by plugging that number negative 8 in here or by using symmetry. And they give me a list of choices, negative 4, negative 5, negative 6. Well, this is an upturned parabola, so the further this direction I go, the higher this way I'll be. So negative 8 really has to be my choice, and I have lots of ways of seeing that that's true. So K for number 42. 43. The volume of a cylinder is 64. We need to know that the formula for volume of a cylinder, pi r squared, the area of the circular base, times the height. We know that the volume is 64. We know the height is 4. If I divide both sides by 4, I get 16 pi equals pi r squared. If I divide by pi, 16 equals r squared. So r equals 4, which is why B is the answer to number 43. Okay, 44. I think I spent 5 minutes just trying to read this and understand this. I would tell you to skip it. We know that the ratio of sides is 1 to 3 to 5. 1 to 3 to 5. But they're asking us about the ratio of this to this. Well, if this is a ratio of 1 to 3, then this one has to be 2, yeah? So really we're looking at a ratio of 2 for the longer one, 1 for the shorter one, and so we have a ratio of 2 to 1. But it took me a while just to read through all the language to find that choice J was my answer. I might skip this one if I were taking the ACT and come back to it if I had time. 45. Okay, so I think there's really only two choices here. If we read this problem carefully, notice it says, and finally rode 35 meters directly north. So look at our choices. This one has a 35, and this one has a 35, plus some other stuff. Well, look at his trip. Avi rode his bike a bit. 35 was part of the trip. Well, 35 plus some other stuffs. So E is going to be my answer there. But we can certainly use our special right triangle information to help us figure this out. We know that this is 60 and 60 and 30 and 90. We know that the short leg is always half the hypotenuse, and the long leg is the hypotenuse times root 3. So part of his trip north was 30 root 3. Then there's this isosceles right triangle, 45, 45, 90, where this is 100. Well, we know we can take the side length and multiply by root 2 to get the hypotenuse, or we can take the hypotenuse and divide by root 2 to get the side length. So we end up with 50 root 2 here for this part of the trip. So the whole trip is 35 plus 30 root 3 plus 50 root 2, and that's choice E. Okay, 46. Yeah, so I don't think you've done ellipses, which is definitely a skip then for you. The formula for an ellipse, x squared over h plus y squared over k equals 1. Oh, and I see what is the approximate value of n. Okay, so I can build the equation here where h is the distance from the center to a horizontal point. So x squared over 4 squared. And k is the distance from the center to the vertical point on the ellipse. So y squared over 6 squared equals 1. And I get x squared over 16 plus y squared over 36 equals 1. Then they give me, what about n negative 3? Well, the y value is negative 3. Y squared would be 9. So I have x squared over 16 plus 9 over 36 equals 1. I have x squared over 16 plus 1/4 equals 1, which means x squared over 16 equals 3/4. And when I multiply by 16, I get x squared equals 12. And so x is square root of 12, or approximately 3.5. It was a lot of work to get to k. Like I said, you haven't seen ellipses, I don't think, so I might be skipping number 46. Okay. 47. A lot of interesting skippy kind of problems in the 40s here, I've noticed. Here we have a parabola. Here we have the origin. This distance is the same as this distance. That's b, and that's b. And this distance, they tell us, is 2b squared minus 4. What is the area? Well, since these are equal, the problem tells us, we know that the base is 2b. We know that the height of our triangle is 2b squared minus 4. And the area of the triangle is 1/2 base times height. Well, these can cancel, and I'm left distributing a b to each of these. So I get 2b to the third minus 4b, and that corresponds to choice C for number 47. 48. Which of the following expressions must be even? Okay, if x is an integer. Well, let's pick an integer. X equals 3, and an even one, x equals 2. And let's go through our choices. So 3 plus 5, that's even, but 2 plus 5 is not even, so not choice A. 3 divided by 4, not even, so we can skip that. X to the 4th. 3 to the 4th is 81, that's not even, so I skip that. 4 times 3, ooh, that's 12. And 4 times 2, hey, that's 8. So J, then, multiplying a number by an even number gives me an even number. 49. 49 says, which of the following ranges of consecutive integers contains the value for log base 9 of 9 to the 7/3? Well, if we use our power rule to bring down the 7/3, log base 9 of 9, we should know log base 9 of 9 is 1, and so 7/3. Well, that's 2 1/3, which is between 2 and 3, which is why C is my answer to number 49. 50. 50 says, what is the closest percent decrease in Cameron's new accounts from January to February? So this is new minus old over old, percent decrease. So we've got 23, oops. We have 19 minus 20, no. Sorry. Yes, 19 minus 23 over 23, which is negative 4 over 23, which is about 17.4%, or G. 51 also uses the table. I wish they would put the table on the same page as the questions. Maura wanted an average of 30 accounts per month for the first 4 months. How's she doing so far? Well, she has 31 plus 25, 27 for April, and we don't know how many for March, but she wanted to average 30. So, if we multiply both sides by 4 to clear out the fraction, and add these bits together, 50, 60, 70, 80, 283 plus m, and then subtract 83 from both sides, I get that m should be equal to 37, and this is choice E for number 51. 52, the last one with our table. Dawn's sales are decreasing by 5% each month. Ooh, that's exponential decay. That's 1 minus 0.05 to the n minus 1 times his initial amount. I wonder what his initial amount was. Dawn's initial amount was 64. So we've got 64.95 to the n minus 1. If I make January equal to 1. So they're asking us, what would the new number of accounts be in May? So January is 1, February is 2, March is 3, April is 4, and May is 5. So I plug a 5 into this formula, 64.95 to the 5 minus 1, or 64 times 0.95 to the 4th. I pull out my calculator, and I come up with the closest number being 52, or G. Okay, let's take a look at 53. What is the period of f of x equals secant 2x? Well, we know this is the reciprocal for cosine x, or cosine 2x, 1 over, and the period of cosine 2x, well, the period of cosine x would be 2 pi, but the period of cosine 2x means 2x equals 2 pi, or x equals pi. So, remember our formula, 2 pi over b gives us period. So 2 pi over 2, or pi, is the period. This formula works for everything except tangent and cotangent, where pi divided by b is our period. So our answer here is C for number 53. 54. Okay, so we've got a building, we've got a fence, we've got home plate, we've got the angle of vision, we've got 30. Okay, so the angle of vision has a tangent of 7/6. So that's this is to this. Tangent of vision is 7/6. In our problem, That's this distance over 30. Okay, so 7 over 6 equals d over 30. And this is the distance that they want us to find, the distance from home plate to the closest wall of the fan's house. So if I multiply both sides by 30, and I can do some canceling, I get d equals 35, which is choice F. Okay, 55. Absolute y squared minus 11 minus 2 equals 0. Well, we can write this as absolute y squared minus 11 equals 2. And now we can write our positive and negative components. Y squared minus 11 equals 2, and y squared minus 11 equals negative 2. I'll add 11 to both sides. I'll get y squared equals 13. And here y squared equals 9. And when I take the square root of both sides, I get y equals 3. And over here, when I take the square root of both sides, ooh, don't forget the plus and minus. Y equals plus and minus root 13. The question here says, which of the following is a solution but not a rational number? Well, 3 is rational, and root 13 is not rational. So D is our answer to number 55. 56. Why, look, it's a hyperbola problem. Well, if you haven't done ellipses, you definitely haven't done hyperbolas. What I can tell you here is they would have the same asymptotes if they had the same stuff under the x's and the same stuff under the y's. And so for 56, that would be choice J. Choice J for 56. 57. So every 10 degrees, there's a mark. Line segment. The point on the needle travels 42 millimeters as it moves from east to north. So as we go from east to north, that's 270 degrees, or 3 pi over 2 radians. We travel 42 millimeters. Well, this is S equals R theta problem. We're looking for the radius. We know we traveled 42. We're looking for R, and this is 3 pi over 2. So if I multiply both sides by 2 and divide both sides by 2 pi, by 3 pi, I'm going to get a number. But I'm going to need my calculator to do that, and when I use my calculator, I get approximately 8.9. 8.9, which is choice B for 57. 58. An angle between 3 pi over 2 and 2 pi, so we know we're looking in here. The cosine of that angle is 12 over 13. This would be -5 if I use my Pythagorean triples, or if I use the Pythagorean theorem. And they asked me what the tangent of this would be. Tangent is opposite over adjacent. Tangent theta would be -5 over 12, which corresponds to choice F. Okay, remember we're in fourth quadrant, and this has to be negative. If not, I'm not going to find the right answer here. Okay, 59. 59 asks us to find the determinant. So we've got 6a, a, 4. The determinant is this minus this, so 24 minus a squared. And they say the determinant should be equal to 2a. Okay, this determinant equals 2a. So if I move everything onto one side, because this is a quadratic, I'll have a squared plus 2a minus 24, which is a plus 6, a minus 4, So A equals -6 or +4. -6 is one of the choices, +4 is not, so I'm going with A as my answer to number 59. Okay, last problem, number 60. 60. So we've got this sphere in here. And we know that the diameter of the sphere is equal to the side length of the cube. All right, what else do we know? Well, that means that the radius is half a side length. We also know that the diagonal, which I will draw in a different color, the diagonal inside the cube is 3√3. Well, I see here a right triangle. This is on the floor. This is up and down side length. This is S. This is S. If I use the Pythagorean theorem here, or I recognize the 45, 45, 90 right triangle, I know that this is S√2. And so now here I have a right triangle. And I can write the equation S squared plus S√2 squared should equal 3√3 squared. So that's S squared plus 2S squared equals 9 times 3, 27. 3S squared is 27. S squared equals 9. So we get that the side length is 3. And remember before we said that radius was half the side length. Oh, but we want diameter. And diameter is a side length, so the diameter is 3. And that's choice J. J for number 60, our last problem on Practice ACT number 4. Hope this was helpful.